The death of gospel artist Pastor Neyi Zimu from cancer last week has again raised shock and awareness of this disease. Zimu suffered from a type of blood cancer that affected his skin. Now, South Africa ranks as the second highest in the world for skin cancer. Now, for more on this, I am joined in the studio by specialists from the Cancer Association of South Africa, Professor Michael Herbst, and skin cancer survivor Naniki Seboni. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, I found it quite shocking and alarming that Cancer South Africa says that South Africa is ranked second highest in the world with about 20,000 cases reported a year.
At least 20,000.
At least 20,000 reported, and that we come after Australia.
Just after Australia.
What are the dynamics that actually influence this? Why are we the second highest? Why do we rank up there?
Well, we have a good climate, let's say that. And then worldwide we do have interference up in the sky with the depletion of the ozone layer. And that prevents the filtering out, like we had in the past good old days, of the UVA and UVB rays from the sun. And we don't have that filter anymore. And it contributes, apart from the increase in skin cancer, it also increases our problems with climate change. And we, this week, experiencing climate change with excessive weather changes all of a sudden.
Yes, there's weather, but what are the other factors that can give rise to cancer?
Well, the thing is, I think a lot of people do not heed the warnings. And now December, January, February are the real months that people should take special care, because these are our very hot summer months. And people tend to go during the festive season, go down to the beach, they go to swimming baths and things like that. And they do not take the basic precautionary care of their skin.
Let me ask you, I mean, you are a cancer survivor. Yeah. When did you find out that you had cancer, and what type of cancer did you have?
So in 2015, I was diagnosed with stage 3 malignant melanoma, which is a very severe form of skin cancer. And this came at the age of 25. So I was not even thinking that a skin cancer diagnosis would be something that I would face. I think most so we keep hearing about breast cancer, so not even thinking that skin cancer would be the way that I would go. But this is signs and symptoms that I had from the age of 5. So for 20 years, I kept going with these signs and symptoms of excessive bleeding, of severe sunburns.
Where, on your skin?
Nose.
Okay.
My nose. I had really, really bad nosebleeds as a child, to a point where they decided to take me in for a minor operation, but they were blocking what was happening. Nobody ever found out why was I bleeding, you know. And there was, you know, the sunburns. I had, I think, about 5, 6 sunburns, and Prof May, you know, just confirm with me here. If you've had more like 4 sunburns, you might end up developing that.
I want to thank you for making that statement, because she's made one of the most important statements. 3, 4 to 5 severe sunburns as a child is a gateway to skin cancer later in life, and here is evidence of it. And, you know, we have the problem that people with dark skin tones believe that they will not get skin cancer. And of late, we've become so aware of it. And the important thing about malignant melanoma, which our survivor here has had, the important thing in people with dark skin tones is they don't show the signs and symptoms on sun-exposed part of the skin. I think I want to give you another good example of somebody who died of melanoma. And that is a very famous singer, and he got it under a toenail. And he thought that it was an injury with playing soccer with his friends, and he eventually died of...
Are you talking about Bob Marley?
And that is our dearest musician, Bob Marley.
When melanoma sounds like a really big term, but what exactly is it?
Oh, how can I explain melanoma?
Well, Prof, you can help
I think the important thing is all of us do have melanocytes in our skin. And that's where the name melanoma comes from the melanocytes. They are responsible for producing our skin tone. So they produce melanin, which changes the color of our skin. So when one tans, in a normal, natural way, your skin becomes a little bit darker in color, and that is because of the melanin. But with excessive exposure to the melanocytes, DNA changes takes place within the cells of the melanocytes, and they start multiplying in an abnormal fashion like normal cancer cells would. Uncontrolled, abnormal multiplication. But what we very often see is that with melanoma, the melanoma doesn't appear there in the form of a mole or something like that where the sun exposure is, but that the melanocytes, when they cluster together, they seem to, in a still unexplained manner, find their way into the bloodstream and or the lymphatic system, and they go to a different part of the body and they manifest there. So we find people with it on the palms of their hands, under the soles of their feet, the genital area. You will recall that there was a famous sports commentator, don't want to mention his name, but he had melanoma in his lungs, to show you the danger of melanoma and why we should really protect ourselves against exposure to the sun.
Naniki, you were telling us about some of the symptoms. So as a child, you'd had a number of sunburns.
Sure.
And only at the age when you were in your 20s, you went to the doctor. But what were the symptoms before you even went to the doctor?
So the nosebleeds and the sunburn, but you know, my skin would peel and it would crack, and nobody took too much notice of it, just put some Vaseline on it. But I would like to, you know, commend my parents buying sunscreen for me from, I think, the age of around 7. So we were already understanding,
thinking clearly.
Exactly that. So throughout my life, I was constantly using sunscreen, but there was just something else that was happening in the background that we were not aware of. And then there was spots on my back that somehow moved to the front, which didn't make sense to me. Like, why would a mark move from the back to the front? And moles. I had one on my hand that looked just like a jelly tot. Just like a jelly tot. It was just gray. And it was rough in texture. The size kept changing. And even the one where they ended up doing the biopsy, it was on my left leg, right by my knee. And when it was removed, it looked like the most horrendous fly you've ever seen. And, you know, it was irregular in shape. It really was unsightly. That the pain of it as well was something that I should have taken notice of, but I didn't. But I think at the back of my mind, there was always that inclination that this could be something else. But you're always scared to. You're always scared to go, because my black friends, my black community, they're like, no, Kikuku, don't worry about that. We always have these. And you need to go get that thing checked out. So that went back to now how we grew up and the stigmas that surround cancer as a whole, let alone skin cancer.
So yours was diagnosed at stage 3.
Stage 3, correct.
So, Professor, when we talk about the different stages of cancer, how many are there, and what do those stages actually mean?
We usually talk about 4 stages. Stage 1 is if the cancer is there where it originated. So it's localized and it is there in a certain specific area. Stage 2, where it already starts growing in size and it's starting slowly to infiltrate tissue around it. Like, and you can't get a better testimony than we've. It became, the diameter changed and things like that. Then in stage 3 is where we have a start of the melanoma moving from the primary site to other parts of the body. And again, wonderful testimony. She started talking about patches appearing on the front of her body. And then stage 4, that is the last stage, and that is when it starts infiltrating various organs, and it can spread to the lungs, to the brain, to the liver, to the intestines, and that is a very bad sign. I
mean, I was talking to Omega, the artist, this past weekend, and he was very close to Pastor Neyi Zimu, and he was saying that Pastor Neyi said, I've got something on my back. Won't you just check my back? There's something irritating me. And you know, they got home and they got that checked, but only after a short while did they find out that that was actually cancer. Should you be having symptoms that even you yourself are not aware of, and you go to your doctor and you ask for checks and nobody says, look, there's a cancer here, you know, can you, as a patient, insist that you be checked for cancer? Should you insist that you be checked for cancer, Prof?
Yes. Look, we don't get our healthcare for free. Even the indigenous people in South Africa who cannot afford to pay for their own health costs, there are other ways of funding, but it costs money. And they are entitled to healthcare. It's actually enclosed in our constitution, the best constitution in the world. And it says health is a right, as long as government can afford it. And that's the only time couldn't afford it, and unfortunately people like that had to pass on. But the important thing is, and whether we're talking skin cancer, ordinary cancer, or any other serious disease, my advice to people is always know your body, from the top of your head to the soles of your feet. And if anything is different today than it was yesterday, than it was last week, than it was last month, have it seen to. And please, people out there, remember, you have a right to a second opinion. If you're not satisfied with the attention and the care and the treatment that you're receiving at the moment, you have a right to a second opinion. And I can't wait for the best national health insurance program to start in South Africa.
I'd like us, Prof, to talk about treatment. Naniki, very quickly, what type of treatment have you undergone and how has that been rated?
I think treatment is different for every single patient, and I, for one, was one of the very fortunate because there's the three main types. There's your chemo, your radiation, and the surgical remove. I had mine surgically removed, nothing else. This, to me, was a wonder because my fear was the chemo because of the side effects and everything that comes with it. So I was very fortunate in that case, but I went to a public hospital, and this was done easily removed. The only problem is I took time. But when they realized that I had come back in to get, my treatment, they acted very fast. I went in Monday, Wednesday, I did my operation. Friday, I discharged myself.
So are you cancer-free at the moment?
I am in remission. I'm 4 years going. Brilliant. Next year is a brilliant year for me, year 5. It's a big year for me, so...
And we celebrate that with you.
We always celebrate 5 years, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That is absolutely amazing. And I love that good news story that it can actually be beaten. But Prof, in order to beat cancer, any tips? 1, 2, 3 tips?
Absolutely. This is why it's so important that we go for early diagnosis, early treatment, because then your chances of going into remission are absolutely great. It can be up to 95 to 98%. But delaying in getting a diagnosis. And that's why my heart goes out to the people in the outlying rural areas. And that's why I mentioned NHI just now. I can't wait for NHI so that everybody in this country can have equal access to healthcare and get the treatment that every single citizen of this country deserves.
Well, thank you so much to both of you for your time. Congratulations. Continued health to you, Naniki, and thank you for the insight as well.
And continue to celebrate.
Always.
Yeah, definitely.